This is the fourth of 8 video revision sessions for the theory paper, which will help you with your mock on the afternoon of Friday the 2nd of February 2018 and your real exam on the morning of Monday the 18th of June 2018. This is the second video that looks at recruitment, training and rewards, and specifically looks at employment rights and responsibilities, training, both internal and external training, training benefits, methods of paying your staff, and rewards other than pay. So, employment rights and responsibilities. So there's a number of different rights and responsibilities that the employer has to stick to, and this would be when somebody is working for them, or maybe when they're advertising a job in their business. So the first one is the Sex Discrimination Act. This is designed to make sure that men and women are treated fairly in the workplace and also treated fairly when applying for jobs. The Equal Pay Act. This law was passed to make sure that men and women are paid the same for like work or for similar work. The Race Relations Act. This act makes it illegal to discriminate against somebody because of their race, their colour, their national origin and their ethnic origin. The Disability Discrimination Act. This act tries to ensure that people with disabilities are not refused employment in a certain place of work because of their disability. And the Employment Equality or Age Regulations. These regulations are to make sure that people are not discriminated against or overlooked for jobs, for training or for education because of their age. So the first form of training we're looking at is induction training. Think back to your first day at Laurence Jackson School when you were a year 6 just coming up from primary school. An induction day was very similar then to what induction training is in the workplace. Induction training is for new staff and it must include something called health and safety at work training. It will also include general information about the business, so you'll get to know what the business does and where things perhaps are kept. This type of training should make the new recruit feel at ease about starting work. It's general training that all new employees receive, and because it's general training, it's not related to the new job that they will be doing. It's just a general overview of what the business does, who perhaps people are that you'll report to, getting to know those new people. It's purely to make you feel at ease and also to give you some health and safety training before you begin work at your new place of work. So there's different methods of training. There's in-house training, that's internal training. It's not done in a house, but it's done within the business itself. And it says in-house training or internal training, sometimes it's called, happens at the normal place of work. And that might include the following features. So it might include being shown how to complete tasks or learn new skills by an experienced member of staff. It might be working at a slower pace until the necessary skills are learned. It might be working with new machinery or new equipment. And it might be working alongside existing employees and watching what they do. The alternative to in-house training is off-the-job training, and it's also called external training, or training that happens outside of your usual workplace. So it says off-the-job training takes employees away from their normal place of work, and it may include the following features. It might be being instructed by specialists provided by another business, perhaps at a training centre or a college or somewhere like that. You get day release from work to attend a local college. Might be working with employees from another branch of the same company or workers from other businesses. And there's a variety of different advantages and disadvantages of internal training and external training. The advantages of internal training is that it's cheaper. It's cheaper because it's usually held or usually ran by somebody who works at the company that you're working in, and so those people won't necessarily be paid for training the other members of staff. They'll do it alongside their normal work. And the second advantage is, whilst you're being trained, the employee can be productive. So I often use the example of putting up our new school building. So there may have been people training on the job, learning how to put a brick wall up, and because they were learning on the new building, their brick wall actually eventually turned into a school. So they were being productive whilst on the job. Disadvantages are that you can be taught bad habits by the people that you're learning off, because they're not trained to be trainers. Sometimes you could just learn bad habits off them. And it does also take those trainers away from their normal jobs. Their normal job is to do something really important in the business, and they're training you, then they'll have to go back to that important job once they've completed training you. So it does take them away from their normal jobs. External training, well, the advantages are you should be taught in a professional way because of the next advantage, which is that experts can be used. Experts are used perhaps in a college environment where they're used to training other people, and they will show you the correct way of doing things. Disadvantages are, of course, it's much more expensive. If your business is going to send you to a college or a training centre, then they will probably need to pay for those trainers to train you, and so it's going to cost them. And the disadvantage, or the last disadvantage, is whilst being trained, the employee's not being productive. So again, go back to the brick wall example. If you go to college to learn how to put up a brick wall, you'll spend all day putting up that brick wall, look lovely at the end of the day, and then of course a new set of people will come in the next day at that college and want to learn how to put up the brick wall, so yours will just be smashed down and it'll never become anything. So whilst you're being trained at that college, you're not actually producing a brick wall that will ever be anything. So you're not being productive, you're not helping the business to produce anything. So that's the disadvantage. So there's different training benefits. So you could pause the video now and you could write down as many as you can think of. So the training benefits would be: trained staff should be better at their jobs, which will mean that they are more productive, more efficient, and for the business will produce more profit. Training can give staff new skills so that they can do the other jobs within the business. Training can help staff stay up to date with new developments so the business has less waste. Training new staff makes them feel valued so that they stay longer in the business, and this means that the business saves on the expense of recruiting and the selection process whenever somebody leaves. People are going to stay longer, you don't have to recruit as often, and therefore the money stays within the business and the business continues to make good profits. So there's different methods of payment. First one we're going to look at is wages. Now wages are given as an hourly rate. For example, £6 an hour, £8 an hour, £8.20 an hour. And employees are normally paid weekly, they can be paid fortnightly, and some that are paid an hourly rate also can be paid monthly. But blue collar workers, as they're called, they tend to be paid wages. For example, mechanics, cleaners, catering staff, and these are all paid a wage, and that would be so much per hour. Another method of payment is salaries. Now, salaries are quoted as a yearly, or we call that an annual figure. For example, 16,000 PA, or per annum, or per year. These are paid monthly on a date specified in the contract of employment. And these white collar workers, as we call them, tend to be paid salaries. So teachers, doctors, accountants, all those type of professionals would be paid a salary, quoted annually, and that means that they get the same amount every month. It wouldn't really matter if they worked 5 hours this month and 300 hours next month. They would continue to be paid the same amount each month. Another method of payment is overtime. Overtime is paid when work cannot be completed during normal working hours, and it's often paid at a higher rate, such as time and a half. That means that you might get £9 an hour instead of your normal £6. If your normal wage is £6 an hour and you get time and a half, you get your normal £6 plus an extra half on top, meaning that your overtime rate will be £9 an hour instead of £6. Overtime is paid to those workers who normally get a wage. Bonus payments. Bonus payments are made if a particular target is achieved. For example, if you increase the profits by 10% within the business, a bonus can be paid to an individual employee, or it might be paid to everybody in a company as a lump sum. Commission. Commission is extra money. It's additional money paid to an employee when an item is sold. It's normally a percentage of the value of the goods that you sell. For example, if a sofa sells for £800 and you are working as a sofa salesman and you work on commission of 15%, then the sales assistant will receive an extra £120 on top of their normal pay. And commission is paid to salespeople, so sofa salesman, double glazing salesman, sometimes car salesman. All these different salespeople will get commission depending on how much they sell goods for. Seen as an extra incentive to try and get them to sell more. So there are some rewards other than pay, and we call these fringe benefits. So pause the video now and write down as many fringe benefits as you can think of that you would get paid perhaps in a business. So some of the examples says here, there are other ways of rewarding employees for their work and commitment to the business that do not appear on your payslip. These are known as fringe benefits. So these fringe benefits can sometimes entice better employees to your business, maybe people with more skills. It can also help to retain those really good employees who currently work for you, offering them something else that perhaps they don't get in another business. So here's some of them. A company car. Now obviously that car is loaned to them. It might be loaned to the employee for a year and then it's changed, or it might be 2 years and then it's changed for another one. It means that that employee doesn't need to buy a car, they don't need to spend £10,000 on the car, they're basically loaning a company car. Now a company car doesn't necessarily have advertising of the business down the side. Sometimes when you're answering questions, I've seen a lot of questions answered by our year 11s that say that a company car will have advertising for the business down the side. It doesn't always. It could be a nice Jag or something like that that just looks like a nice car. It doesn't have any indication that it belongs to a company. So be very careful about that. A company car is just one of these extra benefits, a nice benefit that you don't have to pay for. A pension scheme, so that when you retire you can live quite well on extra money that you get from your pension that has been provided by the business that you no longer work for because you're retired. Life insurance. Now unfortunately this happens from time to time. People die, and how would my family be able to cope if my wage wasn't coming in into the household anymore? So if I was to get life insurance, that would mean that if I did pass away, my family would be able to survive on that money that they would get from the insurance company. So that can be a big fringe benefit for many people who work for different companies. Staff discounts, so even if you work for Asda or Tesco or Sainsbury's, you might find that you get 10% off on groceries that you would buy in the store. So that's an incentive that people can actually buy the products for cheaper if you work for that company. Medical care, so this would be private medical care. Now obviously we know that the NHS is good, but it might be that you have to wait perhaps 2, 3, 4 months for an operation, and you're off work for that long waiting for this operation to happen. So some businesses actually buy private medical care for their employees, so that if anything was to happen and that employee had to go into hospital, they will be able to go into a private hospital, be seen within maybe a week or two. That's a benefit to the employee, but it's also a benefit to the employer, because obviously if your employee recovers quicker, is seen quicker, has their operation quicker, they'll be back to work quicker, and that means that you don't have to pay extra money out for people to cover that person's job. So it's a benefit, of course, to the employee, but there's also a benefit there to the employer. Subsidised meals in the canteen, which means perhaps you're not paying £5 every day for a meal in the canteen. You might be getting £2, £3, £4 off it, and that can be a big benefit, particularly if you're on low wages. And the last one we've got here these days, this is a big incentive to businesses, gym membership. If you give away gym membership as a fringe benefit to your employees, and they use it, then it might be them becoming more healthy. Again, that means that they perhaps don't become ill as often, or if they are, then maybe they recover a lot quicker and they get back to work a lot quicker for you. So it's a benefit to the business as well as the employee, but of course free gym membership would be a big incentive to many people working for businesses these days as well.